The first video was about where to go in the map and how the rate at which you kill affects how your game goes. This video is going to be about route changes and group interaction and will be a bit more controversial. The first controversial statement is that you absolutely want to begin the game with firebugs. Fire weapons are typically low damage output because they have area effect or high penetration. This can result in the same overall damage rate by hitting large groups of Zeds. When applied to high-value targets like Scrakes and Pounds, it usually means lots of Scrakes that have taken enough damage to be raged, but not enough to kill them quickly. Large numbers of raged Scrakes and Pounds wipes out groups, so it's been common to just kick firebugs in demos as soon as they try to join. But here's where you would be wrong to do so in the first wave. In the first video, I had a very important topic that stressed if you kill a lot of Zeds quickly, they will reincarnate as much more difficult Zeds like Husks and Pounds. The exception to this is ground fire. Firebugs have a perk skill where flamethrowers pointed at the ground do increased damage to Zeds that are in the flaming area. Even though you kill fast enough to have a high ZPM and associated chances to respawn as Husks and Pounds, Zeds that die to ground fire reincarnate with low ZPM rates, meaning as more trash instead. It's the one time when you're allowed to kill large numbers of Zeds without the penalty of getting back more difficult Zeds, since if that was the case, firebugs would suffer more than any other class because they don't have a single target option. As your first wave is going to be 90% trash, you absolutely want to have ground fire killing that trash so that the respawns are composed of more trash instead of Husks and Pounds. Side note, this will end up giving all the dosh to the firebug. If they are not generous about sharing that, you should probably kick them. If you decide to go with the Firebug starter, it's probably a good idea to switch your perk skill from Napalm to Shrapnel to avoid the Rage Scrake problem I was talking about earlier. The next topic is going to be a lot more complex. I'm going to distinguish short-range classes, generally SWAT and Gunslingers, from long-range classes, meaning Sharpshooters. A group that is mostly composed of Sharpshooters will more likely have a low ZPM as their weapons are single shot and have long reload times. They are more likely to break camp in advance of a large pack of Zeds approaching. They are not capable of shooting much as they travel, and so their ZPM rate will drop to under 15 for parts of the route. As I've stated before, the slower you kill, the easier the reincarnated mix will be, so a group that is dominated by sharpshooters will tend to have a slower pace but a more orderly transition between camps. Short-range classes will usually engage the trash Zeds and continue to keep killing Zeds as they travel between camps by facing backward and shooting at the Zed pack that is trailing. This drives the ZPM rate up and tends to keep the ZPM rate higher for long periods of time. In the short term, that means that traveling between camps is more dangerous because Zeds among the trailing pack are dying at a high rate and getting reincarnated in the direction the player group is moving, meaning at the camp you are trying to get to. The long-term effect is greater chaos. As the ZPM goes high and stays high, the game difficulty increases by reincarnating Zeds as more difficult Zeds like Husks and Pounds. Husks and Pounds have a multiplier effect because they will strike Scrakes between them and the players and enrage them. This is compounded by a SWAT or survivalist tossing a lot of flashbangs as a way of getting around the Zed pack when you leave camp. If they do happen to grenade dump, 2 flashbang strikes on a pack of Zeds can be enough damage to trigger raging of large groups of Scrakes in the pack. you end up with a large number of sprinting Scrakes closing on you, which forces you out of camps prematurely when there are still dangerous numbers of Zeds in the halls you need to travel through. When your group is running for their lives, even a small number of Zeds at your destination camp can cause chaos and deaths. Sometimes you have the opposite problem of SWATs running around a pack of Zeds without dropping grenades because their run speed allows them to take the lead as they sprint through a gap between Scrakes. If the Scrakes are not frozen in place, the gap closes up behind the first runner and traps the sharpshooters who sacrificed run speed for extra damage in their perk bonuses. Once the sharpshooters are dead, the only crowd control left in the group is flashbangs, and you get the same situation of large groups of sprinting Scrakes trailing the players. Quick reminder here, for SWAT, shooting Scrake legs is generally easier than Scrake heads, and they have about the same amount of hit points. Let's change topic for a minute before I get to the section that rains on sharpshooters. In the first video there were 4 camps. Camp 1 is the ramp, Camp 2 is the high corner, Camp 3 was the courtyard, Camp 4 was the start room. The courtyard seemed necessary because of Zeds in the tunnel as you leave Camp 2. But those Zeds in the tunnel are spawned as you move through the alley when leaving Camp 2. If you get to the tunnel quickly, and no one is ever not approaching quickly, there should only be a few Zeds in the tunnel, and you can kill them or get around them. So we eliminate the courtyard, and Camp 4 now becomes Camp 3. Do not try to use the tunnel as a camp, because what works for you when starting at the ramp works against you when moving in the opposite direction. Any Zeds you kill in the tunnel now reincarnate in Camp 3 or near the ramp. You need to get in the corner so that you can draw the Zeds to the side alley and away from the room's exit. That corner also figures prominently in the next section. If you should manage to get to Wave 8, you'll find that a number of rules immediately get shredded. Spawns are spread across a wider area, and you get the dreaded split spawn situation where they come from both ends of the tunnel. In earlier waves, this is something caused by someone who waited too long at the trader and will quickly kill a group at the start of the wave. Teams of pounds can be spawned together, and you'll need your group to be equipped to kill several pounds quickly. It is at this point that you can no longer benefit from a low ZPM, and sharpshooters become increasingly irrelevant because a much larger percentage of your time will be spent dealing with raged Scrakes than unraged. You will often need to be able to kill several Scrakes per second, and to me that means using kilowatts, which many consider to be more or less cheating. Whereas explosives can kill multiple pounds in the same spot, the only weapon that can perform the equivalent on Scrakes is a kilowatt, since the other high penetration weapons have much lower damage. We've been discussing the idea of using Camp 3 as a holdout, as it's shielded from husk bolts, and I'll let you know how that goes. Some of the issues I've been talking about in this video can be mitigated by using voice chat and having a coxswain, which is the person coordinating the people rowing the boat in crewing competitions. This is the one who gets the group moving together and calls out high priority threats. If the sharpshooters get moving at the same time as the SWATs, you'll have more freeze grenades clearing the way and less flashbangs. For myself, at high waves I'll run as a survivalist with flashbang grenades and a freeze thrower, so that I have multiple methods of crowd control. As a player with merely average abilities, I call out the dangers in front of the group and leave the actual killing to the more talented members. For the short-range classes who like to stay at the rear shooting at the pack, I try to let them have some fun before calling them to get to camp, if it is likely they will end up taking a backseat to the sharpshooters during the time spent in camp. You want to avoid taking the position of dictator, unless you know they like that sort of thing. Ideally, I'm setting an example so that the group stays coordinated if I'm the first to die. I hope this video helps you with this very difficult map. If you disagree with what I've said, then we should get in a game and test whether something is true or not. Sometimes great ideas turn out to be less great when tested, and sometimes things that sound crazy turn out to be great. The testing is everything. Let's find out together on the killing floor.